Giant. Okay, on to segment one. Are the Huskies' playoff chances already out of the window? Like, what's up for the rest of the season for the Huskies? Do we have any future? Do we have any hope? Personally, I think it's really hard to say. Nathan, what do you think?
I think it's tough to say, but really the main thing that I'm looking at that this Cal game being canceled and not playing, it's going to affect the strength of schedule for UW, which in the past has been something that the College Football Playoff Committee has looked at and used strongly to kind of justify not putting the Pac-12 into the College Football Playoffs. I believe the Pac-12's only had a team twice in it, as Pac-12 strength of schedule is usually much weaker compared to an SEC team who plays some of the top 10 ranked schools on more common basis than a Pac-12 team. And the strength of schedule without Cal on the Huskies schedule is great because the Pac-12 North, it was kind of thought of as Oregon at number one, clearly above the other schools. And then you've got UW and Cal kind of at 2 and 3, kind of equal. And then you've got Stanford and Oregon State and Washington State in a kind of a third tier. And now with UW not facing Cal, I mean, that takes a big hit on their strength of schedule, especially looking at the crossover matchup that UW has. It's against University of Arizona, which is another one of the bottom tier Pac-12 schools. Cal kind of lucked out with their strength of schedule with them. Their crossover matchup is against ASU, who we'll talk about a bit later on, which is a much better school than University of Arizona. So the strength of schedule is really just for UW Oregon. That's the one game that should be a great tough fight for UW. They're probably going to be underdogs. And the other games, quite frankly, UW should handle kind of easily with Oregon State,
Yeah.
Washington State, University of Arizona. Stanford, it could be close-ish, kind of, but Stanford's one of those schools that doesn't get much national recognizability. I mean, week one against Oregon, I believe the score was 35-14 they lost. So Oregon again being that 1A school with UW kind of two like behind them and Cal right next to them. So that strength of schedule is really gonna hurt, I feel, UW's playoff chances. I mean, I look at it like even if UW somehow goes undefeated, so they're 6-0, and but then there's this SEC team that's 8-2 or whatever. They have 2 losses. I would think the college football playoff picks the 2-loss SEC school over just because of the competition that school faced. Like you look at an Alabama school facing Georgia, facing all these other top ranked SEC schools.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be really, really hard if you look at even not counting strength of schedule. I mean, as you said, you're just talking about the amount of games a team gets to play. The top 4 teams on the Associated Press's poll at the moment, which is Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame, they already have a combined total of 21 games played amongst the 4 of them. And looking at us as like a hopeful playoff contender, we haven't played a single game yet, you know? And like these, like I was Googling it earlier in the day, like week 1 Pac-12 or da 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 this, and I was using the week kind of format, and I said week 1 Pac-12, and my first Google search result was week 8 of college football. So like we're already behind that much in terms of games being played. So like losing out on a game, especially for the position we're in, where our next best game is at the end of the season and everything between is kind of filler. You definitely lose out on that strength of schedule thing. I think the one saving grace for University of Washington and for other teams that might have missing games from the schedule that they can't make up. Like we probably won't be able to make up this the UC Berkeley game. We probably won't be able to make that up. However, I know that there's other coaches in the league alongside Jimmy Lake who are really big proponents, especially this year with it being COVID, that they're really big proponents of the AP poll or these other polls and whoever's doing the rankings, that they really need to look at the quality of games. I mean, I think Coach Lake said it best. He said, I see a lot of teams ranked right now that gave up 60, 62 plus points on defense in one game. And I don't know if you're a voter, how you still rank them in the top 25 when their defense is giving up points like a basketball game. So you've got to be able to watch the games. That's from Coach Lake himself. And I have to agree. If you're supposedly a top 25 team and you've once, twice, maybe 3 times, still, yeah, you've won all your games. Maybe you're 6-1, 7-1. But out of a couple of those games, you've thrown up more than 60 points as a defense. Like, you've just given that away. Oh my god! Like, that's not quality. That's not championship level football. You can't have a gung ho offense and just a crap defense, because like you're not going to get anything done, and no one's going to take you as a serious team if you don't have the work and effort and ability to put out successful defenses. So I think that's the one saving grace, is that there's some teams in the SEC, Big 12, Big 10 on the eastern part of Washington who have given up those big point games. And I think that if UW doesn't give up any, I mean, we have to go undefeated. That's undeniable. But if we end up coming up on a loss against Oregon or one of these other teams, it cannot be a blowout, and all of our wins have to be decisive. Like, that's the only track I see where we get a mid to easy shoe in into the playoffs. Like, even then, I don't think it's guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't think it's guaranteed. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's plausible that UW makes the playoffs, especially without the full 7-game schedule, which even that's less than these 10, 12-game schedules these other conferences are going in. And yeah, a loss to any team would just be catastrophic, even if it's just by 1 point, because one loss puts them at 5-1, best possible record. But yeah, there's a 0% chance they'd get into the playoffs, I believe, with 5-1. I mean, you look at some of the other teams. You talked about these teams with great offenses and kind of the quality of play. Yeah, if UW can, blow out every game they play, like winning 30-3, 27-7 blowouts like those, yeah, it'll be impressive. But then again, we bring it back to the strength of schedule. I mean, it's these teams that are in these high-scoring games. Sometimes the other team's just as good. They're like a top 10 matchup some of these SEC schools are having with one another. That's where I look at it, with like the quality of play and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be problems